Alycats and you viewers. So today I'm bringing you my July 2017 reading wrap-up. I read 6 novels in the month of July, which is pretty impressive considering I was busy doing birthday stuff and doing other career-related stuff. So I'm really proud of myself for reading 6 novels. So let's dive into the actual books I read. But first off, if you'd like to get a sneak peek of the novels I've read, you can check out my blog, alycatgeekery.com, where I write written reviews for every single book I read. And you can also friend me on Goodreads. I need more friends on Goodreads, and see my star ratings, and I also post my reviews on there as well. So that's a way you can get early sneak peeks before the video comes out. But let's stop with the jibber jabber and actually talk about the books now. First up, I read Night City Burning by J. Patrick Black. I have to give a huge thank you to Blogging for Books and Penguin Random House for sending this to me for review. And I really enjoyed this book. This reminded me a lot of Starship Troopers, and it's about Night City, obviously. There's only 12 cities left on Earth after the Valentines have ravaged the planet and just basically decimated it. And this book follows multiple points of views, and at first I was a little confused with all the different characters and their points of views, but they mesh together really well, and it's a really compelling, fun read. If you enjoy science fiction, if you enjoy apocalyptic novels, definitely check out Night City Burning. It's really interesting. There's a lot of war and mechs, and there's relationships and magic, and all these disparate elements seem like they wouldn't mesh well together, but they do. And again, it gave me major Starship Trooper vibes, and I adore Starship Troopers, so I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I did think that some of the time jumps in the book weren't telegraphed well, but otherwise, this was a really fun read. I can't wait for the sequel, which is coming out in 2018, and I highly recommend this if you're into science fiction. Next, I read The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood because I really want to watch the TV show, but I wanted to read the book beforehand, and oh my gosh, this is a classic for a reason. Margaret Atwood writes in such a way that is so simple, yet it's complex at the same time. The writing is just so evocative and beautiful and stunning, and it just makes you feel like you're in the world with the characters. And I loved reading about Fred and how she is a handmaid to this family. And this is set in a futuristic society where a lot of women have gone sterile, so any woman who is fertile is assigned to these rich families, and once a month she has to have sex with the man of the house, and hopefully she becomes pregnant. If she doesn't become pregnant after a certain time, she's either reassigned or she is just kicked out of the handmaid's career field altogether. I can't think of a better way to phrase that. It just takes a really good look at the way that women's bodies are viewed and treated, and it's really prescient to today, which is kind of scary. But it's just such a wonderful novel. The only, complaint I have is I wanted more. I loved Fred, and I wanted to know more about her and her backstory because her backstory was so beautiful and heart-wrenching and touching. And I wanted to know more about what she went through. And by the end of the book, I was just left wanting more. And I know I'm not going to get more. And I'm just like, Margaret Atwood, you wrote such a beautiful story. I just need more. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This is a beautiful novel that demands to be read. Seriously, it demands you to read it. And it's just a classic for a reason, and I think a lot of people will appreciate this novel for what it is. The next book I read was Final Girls by Riley Sager. I freaking adored this novel. This is about a woman named Quincy Carpenter. She survived this brutal massacre when she was a teenager, and now she's living in New York several years later. She is a successful food blogger, and she is living with her loyal boyfriend. She's kind of put the massacre behind her. She can't really remember things that happened, but then one day she finds out that another final girl, because she was grouped into this group of women who all survived horrible massacres, and they are all called Final Girls. A fellow final girl killed herself, and then the other final girl of the group suddenly just arrives on her doorstep unannounced. So it was a very interesting mystery. I thought I knew what was going to happen, but I was totally wrong. This book totally subverted my expectations, and it completely wowed me. The writing is fantastic and suspenseful. I was dying to know what was going to happen. I sped through this book. I couldn't put it down. If you like thrillers, if you like slashers, if you like horror novels, definitely read Final Girls. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, is fantastic. Riley Sager wrote this novel in such a way that it makes you want to know what's going to happen. I really cared about Quincy and what was in store for her. I wanted her to be safe, and every time she made a bad decision, I just wanted to hug her and tell her, no girl, no, you don't need that. I know you went through such a traumatic time, but girl, you're amazing. You're a survivor. So definitely, if you love slashers, thrillers, horror novels, pick up Final Girls today and read it because it's so good. The next novel I read was Here and Gone by Halen Beck. Again, I have to thank Blogging for Books and Penguin Random House for sending this to me. And this was a good mystery, but I didn't totally love it. It's about this woman who is taking her kids across the country. She's fleeing from her abusive husband, and she is one day stopped by a cop in Arizona. He arrests her for possession of marijuana and takes her children away from her. Once she's in prison, he tells her that she has no children, and it's about her fight to get her children back, to prove the fact that she does have kids, that she didn't do anything to her kids, that the cops have taken her kids. And this is a really enjoyable mystery. I was flipping the pages. Again, I couldn't put this book down because I needed to know what happened, and it does kind of touch on some dark topics. But that's kind of where the story falters, because it was really predictable. I predicted what was going to happen way before the end of the book. It didn't delve far enough into the dark topics. Once you read this book, there's not a lot of rereadability, that's not really a word, to it. So I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's a blistering, fun summer mystery thriller read, but to me it's not something I'm going to pick up and read again, or if I do, it's going to be a very long time. And I did predict what was going to happen, so that did remove some of the fun from the mystery of this book for me. But it is very well written, it's well paced, it keeps you flipping the pages. So if you're looking for something fun to read and you love mysteries, I would recommend Here and Gone. But personally, to me, it's not something that I'm going to remember that well after a while, and it's not something I'm going to want to pick back up anytime soon. Then I read The Gunslinger, which is volume 1 of the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, and I love this book. I went into this book with trepidation because so many people told me that this was the worst book out of the series, that you have to get through the first book to get to the good parts. But I found this book so good, so enthralling. Again, Stephen King writes this with such eloquence, and everything is just so evocative and immersive, and I felt like I was with Roland Deschain as he traveled through the world trying to find the Man in Black, and I was invested in his adventures, and I loved learning about his backstory and how he became a gunslinger, and I'm just really excited to continue this series. The way this book ended on a major cliffhanger, and I need to read The Drawing of the Three now. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars because, again, the ending of the book was really the reason I docked 1 star off, because it's just like, what? You ended it there? What? What? But I just found this book so interesting and immersive and beautiful and eloquent and evocative and fascinating, and it's a Western sci-fi novel, and I love it, and I just can't get enough, and I need to read the rest of the series because I'm addicted now. And the last book I read in July was Postcards from the Edge by Carrie Fisher. This is one of her fictional novels, and I adore her memoirs. They're so funny and dry and caustic and witty, but I didn't enjoy this book as much as her memoirs. This book felt very disjointed, and even though it was darkly funny, a lot of it just felt out of place, and even though that style works with her memoirs, it doesn't translate as well with fiction. But I was interested in the story of Suzanne Vale, the main protagonist in this novel, as she is going through drug addiction. She goes to rehab, and then she's trying to find work as an actress afterwards. I just wish there was more connective tissue between the different periods of her life. And even though I wasn't that impressed with this novel, I do want to read the second novel to see what happens with Suzanne. So I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I definitely would recommend reading Carrie Fisher's memoirs instead of this because, like I said, this wasn't as compelling. But it's a fun, summer, frothy read, and it does have some messages that, you know, will connect with people. And it does touch on important topics, but it's just not as cohesive as her memoirs are. It's not as fascinating. and it makes me sad to say that. So those were the 6 novels I read in July. Let me know what you read down below in the comment box, and if you liked this video, leave a like, and if you liked it, make sure to share it because it helps my channel grow. Also, if you're not subscribed yet, but you like what you've seen and heard, hit the subscribe button along with the notification bell so you'll be alerted every time I upload a new video. If you'd like to follow me on social media sites, check out my blog, be my friend on Goodreads. All those links are in the description box down below. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've been reading good books if you're a reader. Peace and kisses. Bye. What do you mean Frank Randall is better than Jamie Fraser? You are out of your mind. I'm so sorry you had to hear that argument, guys. But to make up for that fact, my face will be floating over here in the near future. You can click that face and it'll send you to my channel if you aren't already. And if you'd like to see my previous upload, you'll find that up here, and a playlist of videos that you can watch over and over on repeat over here. And yeah, I need to go back to the invisible person I was talking to and debate why Jamie Fraser is better than Frank Randall.